So tonight I'm just a John the Baptist for him. So I'm a forerunner for Pastor Kingsley. He's going to spend time really teaching God's word tonight. But I just wanted to share something quickly, maybe one or two things quickly. And then maybe tomorrow I would have gathered some courage, and then I'll come back and be myself. I feel like a little girl today. I feel like I'm 12. My dad is sitting in the audience and watching everything I'm doing. Okay, so 1 Corinthians 7. Tonight I hear we're speaking to the singles. I want you to understand that, first of all, being single is a blessing. I know it doesn't seem like that, but being single is a huge blessing. It's one of the best seasons of your life. And the problem is that most single people are too busy trying to get married that they don't enjoy the single season of their lives. We're too busy trying to meet Mr. Right, trying to meet the girl, that we miss out on the benefits and the huge blessing that being single is. In fact, Apostle Paul took so much time encouraging everyone to be single. He said, if you're not married, stay single. I want to save you stress. So let me read his own words, and then I'll share something with you. I'll start from, I'm reading 1 Corinthians chapter 7. I'll jump around a bit. So let me start. I'll start from verse 32, then I'll go back up to 17. I'm reading the Message translation. It says, I want you to live as free of complications as possible. So when you're married, when you're single, you are free to concentrate on simply pleasing the master. It says, marriage involves you in all the nuts and bolts of domestic life and in wanting to please your spouse, leading to so many more demands on your attention. The time and energy that married people spend on caring for and nurturing each other, the unmarried can spend in becoming whole and holy instruments of God. And it says, I'm trying to be helpful and make it as easy as possible for you, not making things harder. All I want is for you to be able to develop a way of life in which you can spend plenty of time together with the master without a lot of distractions. When you're a single person, you can pray for as long as you want. You can fast as often as you want. You can spend time just planning your own life, going on vacation, doing the things that you enjoy. Once you are married, your time is divided into two. And for every child you have, you can divide that time further. So as a single person, if you are not in the mood to cook, you can just go home, drink a cup of tea, and sleep. But once you're married and you have kids, your life becomes complicated because some other people are waiting on you, whether you are male or female. Once you're married, someone else is waiting on you to be a blessing to them or to give them of your time and of your energy. So Apostle Paul was saying here that when you're a single person, you must understand that it gives you time and energy to serve God. Do you know that even the Bible says that if you want to fast as a married person, that you can't just wake up in the morning and say, oh, I want to fast. You must ask your spouse that this week I want to spend it on God. And the person says, not this week. This week I want to have sex morning, afternoon, night. It's not Jesus but me. And the Bible says that you have to first take permission. If your spouse doesn't agree, then pack up that fast. Can you imagine? Even God respects the covenant of marriage. So if you're a single person, you have time to study every version there is, to make plans for your life. Do you know how hard it is to travel with children, especially young children? I sometimes, now my children are a bit old, just a bit older. Not, my children are not that old. They're all under 12. But they're all a bit older. I remember when I had all three of them under 5, and we used to travel a lot. So imagine chasing. So I used to, when I wasn't married, I used to laugh at some people when I see some things on TV, like people that put their children on a leash. I used to laugh at them, like, how can you put your children on a leash? I regret to say that I bought a couple of leashes to myself because my first daughter is like 3 boys in one. So I'm carrying this one and she's running and I'm pulling her back with her rucksack and it's a leash, even though it's a rucksack. So it can be very, very frustrating. And imagine you didn't get to enjoy being single and just grabbing a backpack and just going to Brazil or something all by yourself because you were waiting to get married. If you are single, don't put your life on hold. Tell your neighbor, don't put your life on hold. Let me take you back to verse 17 of that same scripture that I'm reading. It says, and don't be wishing you were someplace else or with someone else. Where you are right now is God's place for you. Live and obey and love and believe right there. Then it says something so profound. It says, God, not your marital status, defines your life. God, not your marital status. It says, so don't think I'm being harder on you than I am on others. It says, I give the same counsel in all the churches I go to. And the reason why I'm saying this is, I can't count the number of people in my DM saying to me, Pastor M, pray for me, or what do I need to do? Nobody's talking to me about marriage. No man has ever spoken to me. And I find it very amusing because you don't need men. You need one man. Just one. So you don't need to pray for men to approach you or women to listen to you when you approach them. You just need one person. Sometimes we complicate our lives with the many people we put in our lives. So whatever position you find yourself, whatever place you find yourself, if you are single, enjoy your single years. Oh God, enjoy your single years. Travel. Get another degree. Make friends. Even marriage determines the people that you keep in your space as friends. Because, why a lot of people want to get married? It's because they don't really understand the demands of marriage. When you get married, you can't be single anymore. What that means is that you don't get to make the decisions all by yourself anymore. So now you see a pair of shoes that you really like, and they're like £1,000. And maybe you make a lot of money, I don't know. So you just feel like these shoes are my life dream. I'm just going to buy these shoes. You can buy it now, you know that, right? When you're single. When you are married, you have to have a full-on conversation and possibly a panel with lawyers present to defend how important those pair of shoes are. And if you break down the amount, how many children can you buy clothes for in that £1,000? Ask any parents. When they see something they really like and they want to grab it, the first thing they think is, how many shoes will I buy for David with that? No, I'm not buying it. So now that you're single, it's a time when you need to really, really enjoy yourself. But if you spend all your time wishing you were married, the problem is you are probably not going to be married, so you're going to be miserable. And you are still not going to enjoy your single phase, so you're still going to be miserable. And people who postpone their happiness never really end up happy. Let me tell you, no man or woman is created to make you happy. None. Only Jesus can, and even he had to die first. So it's too much to put on another human being. Your joy, your peace, and your satisfaction comes from within you. And the only way to have a happy marriage is when you yourself are whole. If you go to the beginning, Genesis, and that's where we find the prototype for marriage. When you go to Genesis, from the very beginning, Adam was in that garden. He had no idea that anything was missing. He was so content. He was walking around that garden, naming plants, animals, trees. He had no clue. It was God that looked at him and said, if I leave this guy like this, it'll be a disaster. So he says, Adam, it's not good for you to be like this. Let me make you a helper. And Adam is like, we're good, though. God says, no. I'm telling you, you are not good. He said, no, we're good. God said, you are not good. It's not good for you to be alone. Let me get you someone. And then God brings, you see, you must understand that God did not start from Eve. God started giving him options. So for those of you who are thinking there must be one supernatural man that God is just going to create for only you, It's a lie. God will give you many godly options. Because people ask me that question all the time. Pastor M, is there only one person for you? There can't be only one person for you. Because if there was only one person for you, somebody else could have made the mistake of marrying that person and we'll all be stuck. And if you're Nigerian like me, I can guarantee you that if it's in Nigeria, somebody has married your own. And if they've married my own, I will marry your own. All of us must be in problem. I can't be the only one that will be confused about somebody has married. No, we must all be. That's how Nigeria is. I don't know about how this is here, but if there's a problem, all of us must suffer it. We all have to suffer it together. So, if there was really only one person, by now, they would have spoiled it. So God brought godly options. He brought options. He brought the lion. And Adam looked at it and said, no. The way this one's teeth is, if I try to kiss this lion, I'll be in trouble. So he said, lion. And the Bible says that it was what Adam called them that they became. So you are the one who decides who your spouse is. They must connect with you on different levels. So as a single person, don't just go into marriage because everybody's getting married. Don't even go into marriage because that's the necessary next step to take. Because you finished high school, you've gone to college, and now you just want to, you've gotten a job, and the next thing is marriage. That's not why you get married. You must be very clear on why you are getting married. Because there are moments and times in marriage where Satan will bring doubts. Ask any married person. There are times you wake up and you're wondering, what am I doing here? Is this the best I could have done? But if you've settled the why, forever and ever, whenever that thing comes up, you know that, no, this is the best I could have done. This is it. This is where it ends. Nobody else. And so the Bible tells us that it was what Adam called them that they became. And so when God brought Eve to him, he was the one that said, this is now bone of my bones. This is flesh of my flesh. And he determined what she would be called. He said, call her woman. He could have called her anything else. He said, call her woman. So when you meet someone, you are the one that determines what that person will be in your life. And let me tell you, the person you marry has the ability to change the course of your life. I'll end with this as I'm bringing Pastor Kingsley up in a few seconds. When I was in final year in Ife, so I started dating someone. He was a doctor. I finished school before him, so we continued dating. It was long distance and all of that. And it seemed like a perfect plan for me because the plan he had was in line with the plan I had for my life. So the plan I had for my life was that I was going to move to the UK, have my children here, and all of that. So he was also a doctor, and so we worked in line with that plan. He came here to do his master's. I was doing my master's in Nigeria, and the plan was that we would get married, and then I would move here. And then at one point, God said something to me, and this is why, as a single person, I say spend time getting to know God. It's important that you know God. It's not only when you want to get married that you now want to hear the voice of God. Like I said, I started hearing from God as a student on campus. Pastor Temi taught me, literally sat with me one day in Sports Center and opened the scriptures and told me how God speaks. And so I started my relationship with God. God would speak to me about different things. There were so many things that God would speak to me about. And so I had this relationship with God. And so I knew how God speaks to me. God always speaks to me through the word. So it was very clear. So I was in this relationship, and one morning I was going to take a bath. And then I felt this unusual presence of God. Like I knew God wanted to speak to me. And so I went into my room. And as I was in that room, I was worshiping. And then this CD, I had this CD player. And then I had this CD, Donnie McClurkin's CD. The one, Yes, I Will Trust You, Lord. I don't know if you guys know that song. And so just before he starts singing, there's a part where he starts out saying things like, what if I ask you to let go of the very thing you hold so dear? And then he says, yes, I will trust you. And I was singing along. Oh, you need to hear me. I'd been doing different things that morning. Really singing very loudly because I was the only one in my room, shouting to the top of my lungs, yes, I will trust you, Lord. Feeling very spiritual with myself. And then when I finished, I started reading about the woman at the well. Where Jesus met this woman at the well. And he was like, give me water to drink. And the woman said, I'm a Samaritan and you're a Jew. You must be really thirsty for you to ask me for water. And Jesus said, if you know the gift of God that is asking you for water, you would ask in turn. And he will give you water and you will never need to thirst again. And this woman said, give me this water so I will not need to thirst again. And Jesus said something. Jesus said, go and call your husband. Now, I don't have the time to go into details of all that happened in that scripture. But one thing I knew was that God was about to give her something that would change her life, water that she would not need to thirst again. And the first thing he said was, go and call your husband. Which means that the person you marry can either make or mar you. So I can give you this water and that person won't let you use it. And so she said, I don't have a husband. And Jesus said, you rightly said, for the man that you're with is not your husband. And it seemed like someone had used a highlighter pen to mark that part out for me, that the man you're with is not your husband. I didn't find it funny. I didn't find it funny. In fact, the first thing that came out of my mouth was, Holy Spirit, rough play. The man I'm with is not what are you talking about? Like, I was so upset. Like, how are we having this conversation? Now, let me explain. I had dated this guy for 5 years, and we had done introduction. And now, all of a sudden, sir, you are saying to me that the man I'm with is not my... What happened to first year, second year? What happened to the third year when we were dating? What happened to the times we broke up and I asked you, should we go back? How is the man that I'm with now not my own? Sir, please, rough play. But let me tell you something about God. Whether you choose to obey him or not, he will still be God. And he knows exactly what he's talking about. Because he has a plan for your life. The only thing you need to do is just walk in line with that plan. And so, there began my journey of, God, are you joking with me? I'm not 22, Lord. I'm not 25. We can't be having this conversation now. You're asking me to throw away something that I have invested in. And so I told God something. I said, well, the guy was a Christ lover self. He was Christ, see then. So he was a Christian, he was everything, and he was romantic. He was everything I thought I wanted. And he was a doctor in the UK. And a doctor in the UK. It's not bad. Yeah, I don't know about the rest of you, but pound sterling looks good on me. I don't know. So, I'm just saying. So I had really planned out my life, but the problem with that is that the life is not mine to begin with. God had a plan. He knew exactly what he wanted to do with me. And in the wrong person's hand, it wouldn't work. And so I told God, well, let him end it. So we're having a conversation the next day, and the guy says to me, I don't know why I feel like I'm losing you. You know what? Let's just end this. 5 years old. I'm like, okay. And the next day he calls me back and says, doesn't know what came over him, that he's sorry. He's crying, I'm crying. He's saying, please, I'm saying, please, no, we can't go back. He's saying, please, let's go. I'm like, no, we can't do this. So eventually, God now said something to me. He said, so I asked God, I said, why? Because this guy is a great guy. He's romantic, like the kind that would open doors, send you flowers for no reason. You know those kind of guys? Yeah, pull out chairs for you, send you mixtapes. So now that I said mixtapes, you all know my age. So, that kind of guy that was everything you wanted. But God said no. And so I asked God one day, I said, this thing's not making sense to me. You said I should not be unequally yoked. I'm not unequally yoked. You said I should, we should have purpose, and I've done all those things. So why are you saying no? And then God said something to me. He said, ask him if you were a pastor, would he marry you? Even though at the time I didn't want to be a pastor, so I didn't understand what we were talking about. I'm like, oh, this is an easy challenge. He's born again, very easy. And the guy is begging me, so this is easy, sir. So I call him. We're having a conversation, and the guy is talking about, I can't even imagine my life without you, blah, blah, blah. I really want us back together. So I said, okay, you know what? If I were a pastor, would you marry me? And he said no, without missing a beat. Straight. And so I said, wait, let me explain to you. You don't understand. This me that you are begging, that you won't spend the rest of life. The guy said, I didn't stutter. I said, if you were a pastor, I wouldn't marry you. He said, why would you want to be a pastor anyway? And then it occurred to me. The woman at the well had been with 5 men. 5 men. She was with a 6th. Not one of them recognized her for who she really was. A few seconds of conversation with Jesus, just a few minutes in the hand of the right man, and that woman became a world-class evangelist. The very first evangelist mentioned in the Bible. She ran back into the city and called everybody, come and see a man who told me everything I've ever done. Now, you see, the way they've made that woman look to us is like, oh, she was just a prostitute sleeping around, changing husbands. So if she was really that bad, how did she have such influence that people would follow her to come and see the Messiah? There was obviously something about that woman. The very thing that was in her, Jesus was able to pull out. Marriage can do that for you. If you marry the right woman, the Bible says that he that finds a wife finds a good thing and obtains favor. The Bible says that a virtuous woman is a crown unto her husband, which means the right woman in your life will propel you into kingship. So it's not a decision you make emotionally. Did I want to be with the doctor in the UK? Yes, I did. Did I want to spend pounds sterling? Yes, I did. I don't know, but this weather here is good for my skin. I'm just saying all the positives, you know. But God had other plans. And today, I ask myself, if I had not obeyed God and put myself in the hands of the right man, would I be standing here today? I can tell you, without missing a beat, that the answer to that question is no. So if you are single, you have a chance to choose right. Not just as a woman, as a man. Men, marry for where you are going, not where you are today. A lot of men make that mistake. You are here and you think, oh, this girl is a fine girl, but does she fit where you are going tomorrow? This is one of the reasons why a lot of men cheat. After a while, beauty fades. Charm is deceitful. After a while, she doesn't seem as charming because you start to see her character. And the things that she's doing will begin to annoy you. But it says a woman who fears the Lord, the kind that God gives. Because a prudent wife is given from the Lord. The kind that God gives has the power to change your life. The Bible says that 2 are better than 1, for they have a good reward for their labor. Pastor K and I, when we met, we didn't have so much. But today, God has been able to bless that little because we walked in the center of God's will. God told me the same way he told me who my husband was the same way he told me who my husband was. And like I said, there's no one person. God will give you godly options. But if you walk in the center of God's will, you won't have to do guesswork. There was no time for me to start doing guesswork. I said, God, just point. Please, I don't have time. Just show me. And then when you get there, what do you need to do? Because marrying the right person is just the first step. There's so much that you need to do to maintain that relationship.